SmorgShow Radio.
Happy New Year! Welcome back to the SmorgShow Radio Show. This is episode 158.5. Hey, if they can call viruses by 0.5 or 0.1 or whatever they're doing now, XBB.1.1 or whatever, 1.5, I don't remember what it was. We could call our podcast 158.5. And the reason why we're doing this is so we're in the middle of January here, and Jerome Malauskas, our chief conspiracy correspondent, came out to the studio and recorded a couple of episodes this weekend, and we published 158. And at the time of this recording, anyway, you can find that on various platforms. Hopefully it'll stay that way. But we do know that YouTube took it down. And they warned us that we were venturing into some unusual, restricted territory, let's say. And they threatened us with a slap if we did it again. So we're not going to mess around with that. We're just going to let it be. Not going to push back. It is what it is. However, and you can find, hopefully, you could still find it on our website, SmorgShow.com, the full episode if you're interested. In the meantime, what we had intended to do was the show got to be a little long because the last segment, my wife came down to the studio and helped us out with some health tips for 2023. Because Jerry and I have some health goals for the year. And my wife knows a lot about nutrition and she likes to help people. So it was a nice conversation, but it ended up going about a half hour. And we had intended to release that as a separate episode altogether in case people just wanted to, find that content. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead with that plan. And that's what this episode is, 158.5. So it's not the full 158 with all the questionable content. But I hope, nevertheless, that you'll enjoy this. And again, you could hopefully find the full episode elsewhere. I guess I'm talking to the YouTube audience here, but certainly if you're listening on the other platforms, you may have already heard this content if you had listened to 158. I hope that all makes sense. I think it does. At least it does in my head. So here we go. Enjoy. All right, we've got a very special feature here. We have a special guest in the studio, my wife, Kim.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to the Man Cave.
Yeah, well, I've been in the Man Cave before, and I have been in the studio before when we did the radio plays.
Right, the radio plays, and you also had your own podcast for about a year.
Yes.
It started off being Blooming Beauties, and then it became Live Well, because I think there was another podcast we discovered out there as Blooming Beauties as well.
Right, yeah.
And
it's been a while.
Yeah. And it was focused on health and skin care. Yeah. Yes. So we welcomed you back here because we're kicking off the new year.
New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
New year, new you. That's what a lot of people like to say.
Yeah, right. Well, Jerry and I were on a phone call, what was it, last week? And we were starting to talk about, I think you brought up, do you mind if I bring up your colonoscopy?
Oh, jeez, he just did. Love how he does that, slips that right in there.
Are you okay with that?
I guess I am now.
I talked about mine when that came up 10 years ago, whenever we did that.
Well, okay.
You haven't had one yet, have you?
Yeah, I'm overdue. I know.
Well, I think that started to talk about what we wanted to do for this new year.
Okay.
To get more in, fit, or I guess we both maybe have our own health goals for the year.
Well, I definitely do, because I was just looking at the video feed, and I was not liking what I was seeing.
Of yourself?
Yes.
In the studio?
Yes.
Well, maybe it's because the wide angle lens wasn't very flattering. Maybe I needed the wide angle lens to get you in. I don't know.
Ouch.
Ouch. Either way, I get it. And I don't want you to think that I'm just putting you out there as the only person here who we're focusing this conversation on, but I thought you and I both have our own goals. So,
I do too, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You do? For this year or just in general?
Well, for me, it was just overindulging at Christmas, not getting as much sleep, not drinking as much water, and then I don't feel good. And I've been making some changes this year. I haven't quite reached where I wanted to be, but I'm working on it.
And here I was thinking you were perfect.
Oh, Jerry, you're so sweet.
Well, we thought we respect your advice because I think you've got a lot of knowledge and you've helped a lot of people. In fact, I think your passion has been to really help people meet their goals, health-wise,
Yes.
whatever.
Yes. Serving. Yes.
Serving. That's one of your love languages.
Yes, it is.
True, but I also think you practice what you preach, and it shows.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, nice.
Well, I'm just saying. It's empirical fact.
So Kim and I are actually this is totally off subject, but we are approaching 30 years of knowing each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
This July.
30 years. And I have to give credit where credit's due. Jerry is responsible for us staying together.
Okay.
From the early days.
Right.
Yeah, you gave him a good swat. Told him
Oh, yeah.
what he should and shouldn't do.
Well, it wouldn't have been the first time.
That's right. It wasn't the last either.
That's right. A couple times I put you on the straight and narrow, buddy.
Well, I appreciate it, Jerry.
No problem.
Because here we are.
There you go.
Well, it was one of those things where, we went on a couple of dates and it's like, I don't know. I just been through a couple of really rough relationships. And do I want to get back in this again? And you're like, don't let this one get away. What was it?
Well, it was that, and also the fact that I thought Kim shouldn't be paying for the bad. She shouldn't be, guilt by association.
Right.
Give her a chance. Come on, man.
I'm glad you did, because here we are 30 years later.
Be a mensch. It's Yiddish.
So I went off topic there, but anyway, so you've had a healthcare business.
Yep.
You're a representative for, can I say?
Sure.
Arbonne?
Yes.
You want to just...
I wasn't going to specifically talk about that.
No, I know. But I'm just trying to build up your credentials here for why.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I've been an independent consultant for Arbonne for, 13 years, I think. And so over that time period, I've done a lot of reading. I've gone through a lot of training and learned about just health and wellness. What helps us in terms of feeling better, what helps us with goals, what helps us with skincare, all of those different things. And, I think a lot of times people want, like a quick fix or I just want to take a pill and lose weight, or I just kind of want to, put something on my face once and then my face looks really good. And unfortunately, there is no quick fix. It really boils down to making good choices over time, consistently, and then in that process, we see results.
Lifestyle changes.
That is true, yes. And that's right. A lot of times if people are looking at, I just want to lose 10 pounds for my class reunion, or I just want to look good in this dress or the suit for this wedding that I'm going to, that's a short-term, once you go to the wedding or once you go to that class reunion, then there's really no incentive to want to keep making those healthy choices. So the reason really needs to be a bigger reason. And like you said, Jerry, lifestyle, making lifestyle changes, knowing that, okay, this is going to be a lifestyle change. That's different.
Well, that's true because, you can get to that goal, like you said, and then you have no incentive to stay at it. Also, the other thing about it too is it should be a little bit less about, let's say, the weight loss and more about overall feeling good in your body.
Right. Yes.
Feeling healthy in your body.
Is your body functioning the way you want to be functioning, and are you able to live the quality life that you want to live?
And I'm guilty not by the examples that you raised about wanting a quick fix to get to a reunion or to show off for a particular event, but I have been guilty of that mentality when I know that there's a physical maybe in 3 months, and I want to try to get those blood numbers right, the cholesterol number right. And so I'll do all the right things for a month or 6 weeks. And then I get whatever results back. I'm happy with the result. And then I just go back to my old ways. So
Until the next physical.
It's like cramming for that
I've
exam.
seen that pattern, honey.
Yeah, over and over again. And then I get those bad numbers and I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm never going to eat that again. And then that doesn't last on you. Anytime you cut yourself off completely from something, it's not really a good way of.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to be sustainable. It has to be choices and lifestyle that you can sustain and are comfortable within reason. I mean, some people might think eating donuts all the time is comfortable, but I'm talking about making changes in your life that are sustainable, that you can continue to do, rather than doing drastic things that are really hard to maintain for a long period of time.
Yeah. So my immediate, sorry, you were gonna say something?
It brings up a question that I have. What about this new trend towards intermittent fasting? Do you think that's a sustainable thing, or do you think that's a bit too?
I think it depends. There's different ways of intermittent fasting. I actually do like it and have done it.
Okay.
But there are different ways of fasting, and some are easier than others.
Okay.
So the type of intermittent fasting that I have done is I'll, eat my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then I try to finish dinner somewhat early. So it's not, I'm not eating dinner at 8 o'clock at night. I might be finishing dinner at 5:30 or 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't eat anymore for the rest of the evening, go to bed, sleep. Next morning, I wait to have my breakfast. Some people, you can do 12 hours, you could do 13, 14, up to 16. It depends. Men can fast longer than women can. But if I have, let's say I finish dinner by 5:30, I might decide not to have breakfast until 7 or 7:30. And so now I have fasted for maybe 13 to 14 hours. And that's a type of fast. That's an intermittent type of fast that I think is a lot easier than someone fasting all day long and you're at work or you're doing whatever you need to do and now you're not eating. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And there are other ways. Like I've heard some people might fast for 24 hours once a month. Some people might do a combination of maybe a day where they just have like one low calorie meal and that's it. And maybe they do that once or twice a month or something. I don't know. I find those to be difficult, but I think it's a lot easier to fast overnight. That's not too hard. And I'm not skipping meals. I'm still having breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm just having them, in certain times during the day, a certain period of time during the day. And then I'm having this longer period of fasting.
Well, it seems that could be a more sustainable mode of doing it because it doesn't seem like privation so much. It just seems like, I'm just going to take a little longer break between meals.
Yeah.
Right. And that longer break actually is a good way to control blood sugar because when you're fasting, that's sometimes that can, like this intermittent fasting where I'm talking about, when I'm talking about fasting, I'm talking about this, don't eat any more after dinner, go to sleep, maybe delay your breakfast a little bit. That is a fast. And doing that maybe a couple nights, you will find that you can bring your blood sugar down. You can cut cravings that way. And that can help as you're making better choices at breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
As far as what you're going to be tempted to want to eat as opposed to what you really should be eating.
Right.
So I thought.
I do have to say, I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse.
Sure.
I'm not a nutrition coach or a nutritionist or anything. These are just things that I've learned through trial and error, things that I've read, things that maybe I've experienced as I'm working with some other people or helping.
No, that's a good disclaimer. But then, the definition of expert is really this person knows more about something than I do. And so I'm going to look to that person for some advice. And so you're an expert in my book because I do trust your advice. You always give me good advice. So thinking about this year ahead and what I want to accomplish, I know personally I need to focus on blood pressure. I never had this problem before. Every time I've gone for physicals or throughout the year, if I've taken blood pressure reading, whatever, never an issue.
Lucky you.
But this past physical, it was a little high. I thought,
really?
oh, well, that's unusual. Maybe it was one off. So I got one of the little, home monitors, and it's been sort of consistently around a certain range, which is a little bit, it's not astronomically high, but it's a place where I don't want to be. So that's one of the things I'd like to do is focus on lowering that. Now, so I know I could probably do more exercise, which then in turn maybe cut some pounds. And I think that should all work out. What do you think? Anything else I should be? And obviously salt intake.
Yeah, reducing your sodium. And I know that you've been watching those numbers, but definitely exercise helps. And I think I had shared this with you over dinner one night that losing some weight, losing 10% is significant enough to start to see some changes. So it's not like, someone has to lose 50 pounds in order to see some health changes. It can, honestly, I think a couple of days of making some really good choices, you can already start to feel a difference even in a couple of days. Now, will you see it in your numbers? Maybe not. It might take a little bit longer making those good choices. But we all know the answers. We just maybe don't always like the answers. But the answers are eating fruits and vegetables, getting enough fiber in your diet, drinking water, exercising, definitely focusing on, now I know your type of protein is going to be different than Chris's type of protein, but having protein at every meal.
Jerry's a vegan.
Is, yeah.
So I had to throw that in. All right. For the listeners, what's going on with Jerry? Yeah.
Or as the term I like to use, plant-based.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But having protein at each meal helps with being satisfied. So having meals focusing on protein, whether it's plant-based protein or whether it's meat, which you like, Chris, and then having fat, vegetables, that's a good meal. That's a satisfying meal. That's a healthy meal. And then focusing on that 3 times a day. And then, if you need a snack, you have some reasonable snacks. But it's the eating, it's the exercise, it's the sleeping, it's managing stress. Personally, I think fresh air is good for all of us.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where we all kind of know what we're supposed to do. We just don't always like to do it.
Yeah. I enjoy our evening walks. That definitely gets, a half hour, in every day. And it's easier to do in the nicer weather. But if it's milder temperatures in the winter, we should continue to do that. I like that. I need to have a more consistent regimen, exercise routine.
Yeah, consistency is important because when you're consistent, it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And then when it becomes a habit, then it's just part of your day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed when I used to go to the gym on a regular basis, it would be those days I would not go or I kind of blow it off. I definitely felt less vital, if you will. I felt a little less energetic. I felt I was a little more off than on the days that I would go on a more regular basis.
Yeah.
We're more likely to make better choices if we've exercised. Because I just find that for me, I like to exercise in the morning. I know different people have different preferences. Some people prefer to maybe do it after work. I'm too tired at the end of the day. So I prefer to do it in the morning. But if I've exercised in the morning and I have my smoothie, which is what my breakfast is, and I've already had fruits, veggies, fiber, it's easier to continue making good choices when you've started out making good choices. Does that make sense?
Definitely. I think it just feeds on itself. You start to get progress and then you want to keep it up. When you start to see results, it's easier to keep going.
Or when you just start to feel better.
You start to feel better,
Maybe after 3 days, you don't necessarily, you don't notice that your pants are fitting different or the scale hasn't changed. But in 3 days of making better choices, you might feel like you have more energy. You might feel more alert. You might feel lighter, even if maybe you're not necessarily seeing results yet. And that feeling can be enough to motivate you to keep going.
Our daughter, Allie, went through, she did a fasting over, what was it, after Thanksgiving sometime?
I think it was after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was somewhere in between.
It was after Thanksgiving.
And she did what, 3 days?
2.5 days.
2.5 days of like nothing except water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what were her results? I mean, she realized that she actually felt worse going back to the things that she gave up in those 3 days, going back to some of those dietary.
Well, there's a part of me that feels like, should we be talking about her when she's not here?
Yeah.
But
won't get into too much, but I think to your point
she
about
has some food intolerances, which I am very familiar with because I also have food allergies and food intolerances. And when you abstain from, and that is a good segue into something else I want to talk about. When you abstain from some of those things, and then all of a sudden, then you kind of bring them back. What happened was she had gone 2.5 days without some of these foods, and then when she brought it back, she realized that she didn't feel good.
Yeah.
But it confirmed for her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I have done in the past where I've done, I'll call it a detox because I'm not quite sure what else to call it. But it's not a detox like people think where you chug this stuff and then you're pooping all day long. It's not that kind of a detox. But I've done one where I focus on clean, like real whole foods. So I'm not eating anything in a package, nothing out of a box or a bag, no fast food. And then I have done this for 30 days where I don't eat dairy, don't eat gluten, no sugar. And because sometimes people have intolerances to those things, but you might not know it. And when you take those out for a little while, and then you could even do it for 2 weeks. You don't have to do 30 days. You could do 10 days. And you stay away from something for a while, and then you just add that one thing back. So you don't add it all back at the same time, but you add maybe dairy back. And then you see, how do I feel? Do I get congested? Do I get kind of, runny nose? Am I having some intestinal issues? That would be your body telling you, hey, this might not be it might not be good for you.
Right.
And so that can be really helpful. Some of it, I think, is just being in tune with our body. So if I eat something and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I feel yucky, or I feel gassy, or I feel bloated, or my stomach doesn't feel good, that probably whatever it was that I ate, if I can pinpoint it.
Yeah.
My body probably doesn't like it. But if I eat something and I feel energized and I feel satisfied and I go about my day and I feel good, okay, those foods served my body well. And each person is going to be different. And so I think that there's some of that too, because I've done a lot of, okay, how do I feel after this meal? Am I itchy? Okay, well, maybe there's something going on that I'm itchy. That's what I have found with nuts. When I eat nuts, I get an itchy back. Chris, you've had to scratch my back sometimes. So now whatever it is, my body is telling me, it's giving me a signal. And so if we can tune into some of those signals, that can sometimes give us some information. Because when we eat a meal, we should feel satisfied. We shouldn't feel like we need to keep eating, or now I got to have, more sugar. That, I don't know if you've ever noticed. Have you guys noticed if you eat sugar, you just want to keep eating
more
sugar?
Of it, yeah.
Or chips.
Chips.
You want to just keep, you can't stop.
Right.
Good food won't cause that type of a reaction. If we eat a good, real food meal, that should be satisfying, and we should be able to leave the table and not feel like we have to keep eating.
So, Jerry, I want to bring you into the discussion here. Are there any specific health goals that you want to target this year? I thought we might use this as a platform to sort of an accountability partner kind of a thing. We check in every couple episodes and see how things are coming along.
Hey, thanks for putting me on the spot.
Can I just jump in really quick?
Yeah,
about
sure.
that?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's actually a really good way to be successful. It is a lot easier to be in a group. Like my mom just joined a walking group. That's a great way to be accountable, because now you've got other friends that you're walking with.
Yeah.
Or if a couple people decide, hey, I'm going to work on this goal, you're going to work on this goal, Chris, you're going to work on this goal, and then we keep checking in.
Yeah.
You can be more successful when you're doing things alongside others.
Yeah.
Well,
Back to you, Jerry.
Spotlight's back on you.
yeah, fair enough. For me, the biggest goal would be weight loss, because it's causing a number of other health issues, mainly blood pressure. But here's the thing, as somebody who is eating a plant-based diet, I have doctors telling me now that my cholesterol numbers aren't where they're supposed to be, which is like, I don't eat cholesterol, so why are my numbers all screwed up? But that has to obviously be with the fact that I'm probably eating way too much processed food. and it's screwing up. I know for sure it's screwing up my triglycerides.
Triglycerides, yeah.
And I think that is affecting other things. So for me, that's kind of a wake-up call, because it's like, if you're a vegan or a plant-based eater and you're having to worry about your cholesterol, that's not a good thing. So I think a lot of it has to do with the excess weight, and I have quite a fair amount of it, to tell you the truth. So I think so for me, my focus is on weight loss probably more than anything else, because it would take care of some of these other issues I'm dealing with.
Yeah, most vegans I see, the classic vegan that I see is like rail, just a skinny and kind of sickly looking. Something.
Yeah. Well, that's not me. At least not the skinny
I think
part.
all vegans look like that.
Yeah.
No,
Not all. That's a stereotypical one that comes to mind, you know.
Right. Well, no, there are plenty of fat vegans out there, and I count me as one of them. But that's the thing that I need to focus on.
So take us through your average day. How do you? What do you eat? How do you shop? And
well, I think the thing is, I do rely a bit too much on convenience foods. So the veggie burgers or the a lot of processed
Convenience
carbs.
foods.
Yeah, well, like pasta and breads and things of that, and then focusing on that instead of that being like a periphery item, it becomes kind of a main line item. You know, it becomes the thing I eat the most. I eat too much pasta, or I eat too much bread, or I eat too many sweets. And that's what it is. So I would start in the morning. I might start out with, it's a bad thing for me. There's a cafe near where I live. So the first thing I might eat would be a donut that I get over at the cafe. I'll have a coffee and a donut. That's probably not the best thing to start a day off at all, really. So you start off with that bad start, and then you go, and if you don't prepare, one thing I notice for me is that I do better when I prepare meals at home and bringing them to work, as opposed to going to any places that are nearby.
Yeah.
Actually, for me, it's being a vegan. It's not, when it comes to fast food, it's
your limited options.
Very limited options. So I end up going to Subway and getting something there, but again, it's not the best. So that's kind of what I'm doing when I'm eating day to day. Is I'm focusing on the foods that are probably, again, messing. Look, so far I can say that my blood sugar levels are fine, but like I said, problems with triglycerides and some other issues, and it has to do with the fact that I'm eating things that are too processed, too packaged, and what Kim's saying about focusing on whole foods is very important. And I know that the times I've gone more in that direction and eaten, like the vast majority of what I eat would be whole foods, like maybe having a sweet potato or some broccoli instead of maybe having a veggie burger with a big bun on it. That would be a better option.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Yeah, I was going to say the planning part is important, and that takes work and it takes thought, and that's why sometimes it's easier just to go for the convenience thing, because otherwise you got to figure, maybe you got to get up earlier. I find that with work, I have to get up earlier so that I can figure out what am I going to make for lunch that's going to be healthy, that's going to sustain me for the day, so that I'm not reaching for something else, because I got a sweet tooth too.
Yeah.
And I with the simple carbs really spike blood sugar. And when our blood sugar is high, it's a lot harder to make good choices. I remember reading, and this was like, whoa. I remember reading that for alcoholics, many times when they relapse is because their blood sugar is high, and it's so much harder to make good choices in that, when your body's in that state, than when you're focusing on clean protein, vegetables, fat, which doesn't spike blood sugar. And then if you're doing the complex carbs, it takes longer for the body to digest. It's got fiber, so it doesn't spike the blood sugar in the same way. It's easier to keep making good choices.
So are there any immediate steps that maybe Jerry could take in like baby steps, so it's not overwhelming? What would be like the first few steps that, 'cause I think we talked about me getting back into more exercise, but
I think, there are two types of people. There are some people that just go headlong into, I'm making 20 different changes and I'm doing it all at once. There are some people like that. And then there are others where maybe they just want to make one change and then kind of go it slow. And somewhere in the middle, I think, is a good place to be, because sometimes I think if you try to tackle everything all at once, it can feel overwhelming. And then it's hard to sustain that.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, if it's just, oh, well, okay, well, maybe I'll exercise 2 times a week and that'll be my change. Well, you might not necessarily get as much benefit if you just kind of, so my advice would be, what would be one thing that could make, 1 or 2 things that could make the biggest impact?
Oh, for me, I would say, well, 2 things right off the bat would be increase of exercise and eating a more whole food diet. For me, whole food, plant-based.
Okay.
So staying away from the pasta, staying away from cookies, staying away from whatever. For me, the thing is, I notice that, like, I'll eat a regular meal and I'll kind of generally feel fine about it, but there's a part of me still has that urge to eat something sweet afterwards. Maybe that's just bad habits that I haven't been able to break, but it's like, okay, I had my meal here. Maybe, like, say I had some sort of like a bean and rice thing or something of that nature. And it's like, but I kind of want to have a sweet thing, like a little candy or a cookie or whatever. And the thing is, it never just stops at that. I never have just a small amount. But even in that case, I still would kind of not like to even feel an urge to want to have that. I'd like to kind of generally be kind of sugar adverse. I mean, because I think there's ways I can get sugar in my diet without having actual sweet or cookie or anything like that, or whatever the thing is. And I think that would be very helpful. Just getting back to, like, well, instead of like maybe grabbing something that's processed like that, maybe grabbing a piece of fruit, maybe some grapes, maybe a couple of small oranges or a peach or something like that, nectarine, would, I think, go a longer way to building up these healthy habits. Because I think that what you're talking about comes back to building healthy habits that you just, it feels natural to sustain it. And if you don't sustain those healthy habits, you feel bad. And it's like, I got to go back to that because I want to get back to that feeling I had before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when you start to feel better, then you start to crave feeling better.
Yeah. And if you're gonna have a craving, I'd rather crave feeling better than crave having another Oreo,
Yeah. So let's bring more definition to what it is, the 2 things that you said you wanted to work on. So you want to get more exercise. What does that look like?
what kind of exercise do you like, Jerry? Because you're always on your feet anyway with work. You're never sitting.
No, that's true, but it's kind of piecemeal. You can get, a flurry of activity and then kind of not so much, and then another flurry. So you're not getting a sustained sort of output, which is, I think, better for calorie burning and probably general energy as well. I think, so like, I don't know if I would be one of those people that want to just stay on a treadmill for 30, 40 minutes. But I know that'd be probably part of what I would need to do. I mean, obviously there's also things like maybe getting into weight training and all that. So that would mean it's probably best for me to get kind of back to a gym situation, because for me, I did get a lot of because I've lost weight before and I've gotten better, and it's usually never been just taking an extra long walk. It's usually me getting to the gym, doing my routine, and and continuing with that, because it feels more like I'm putting in the work, or like a job, if you will, and getting it done. And while I do like long walks and stuff, it's also kind of hard for me to maintain that kind of quick pace for a long walk because with my nature, I'm going to meander. I'm going to look at things. I'm going to slow down. I'm not going to just keep going pow, 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 pow. So if I'm at the gym, I'm already in a situation where I have to, kind of focus on, because, hey, I'm paying for this, number one. And number two, there are distractions there, but they're not distractions that I would have a problem with. They would not be like something that would like get me off. If I'm on, let's say, the stair machine,
Yeah.
I'm just going to be on that stair machine.
Right. You're not walking past. You're not doing window shopping.
Yeah.
Doing a brisk walk in the city.
Yeah. And that sort of thing. So if I'm over like doing something on a weight machine, the same thing, I'm going to be focused on my form. I'm going to be focused on, getting how many reps I can do before it's, gets a little too much. And that's it. And it's like, and I could check it out. Like I did this today, is today going to be my back or, working my back. Tomorrow, maybe I'll focus more on going on a rowing machine or something else. And that'll be where I get my workout that way. I find that being in that environment actually is kind of helpful. In the past, anyway, it's been helpful for me. So for me, just like going out and like, being active in it without any kind of being in a kind of gym environment, I feel doesn't work as well for me as that. Because it feels like if I'm in the gym, I think
more motivated, maybe?
Yeah, more motivated. And it's the fact that, like I said, my money is going towards that to be there. I know for some people say, well, that's just kind of an excuse. But for me, it kind of worked. It just kind of worked. Geez, I got to get there. I'm paying good money for this. I got to show up. I got to do something. And I initially, when I started out there, I did have some help, basic help with the kind of personal trainer thing. But it didn't work out as well with that as I thought. First of all, the personal trainer he sucked because he didn't seem like he was all that interested in helping me out.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, I mean, it is because he just was whatever, but nothing to be said about that. So yeah, I think that's the thing. And I also, also retraining my taste buds because I think that's another thing too. We kind of gravitate to those things that, they trigger our taste buds and we get these pleasant feelings in the moment. And then later on, we realize, that wasn't the best decision for me to make. Like I could go eat, some healthy vegetables, but I kind of want to have the big pile of pasta instead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. I'm wondering if it might be better to pick a couple of things that you're going to change. So it sounds like working out at the gym is the best for you. So that's something you can work on.
Right.
And then I heard, I don't know if you always eat a donut for breakfast, but maybe starting your day with something more nutritious and whole foods. Mm-hmm. Start your day that way. And then maybe you decide, I'm not going to eat past 7:00 at night. Those could be 3 fairly, I think those are doable changes that you could work on. Mm-hmm. Maybe you do that for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Maybe we get into a text conversation together and we just kind of, hey, how's it going for you? Did you do what you said you were going to do? It doesn't have to, do that for 2 weeks, see how it goes, see how you feel. Then maybe you add something else. Maybe it's, okay, now I'm going to kind of get away from the simple carbs like the pasta and the bread, and instead I'm going to focus on maybe brown rice or maybe wild rice or maybe a sweet potato instead of a white potato, but not making all those changes at once. I think sometimes it's better to pick a couple that you can do, because then when you do them and you feel successful, you want to keep going. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And for me, last year we went through this. I was having canned soups for lunch pretty much every day, and that's when I saw my. Once I got rid of that, my blood pressure came down substantially.
I started making soups at home.
Yeah, it's like 1,000 milligrams in a can of soup.
It's ridiculous. I've seen it. It's ridiculous.
And so I haven't gone back to that habit, but I think there's some other things in my diet that I can maybe portion control. I need to definitely up the exercise, cut back on the alcohol, and watch my portions. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'd like to continue tracking in this quarter because I don't want to go on blood pressure medication if I can help it.
Right.
You don't want to.
No.
I'm trying not to eat chocolate because that's my weakness.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in closing, do you have anything that you're focusing on? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, Jerry brought some chocolates out. He's always a nice guest. He brings little gifts for us and gave Kim some chocolates.
Because I love chocolate.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, actually, I was having a lot of back issues, which has really caused me to have to change some of my exercise. But I'm feeling better, and I've been slowly easing back into it. So that's one of my goals, is to get back to, because I was exercising 5 days a week, and I haven't been doing that.
Yeah,
so
because of the back. Yeah.
I want to get back to doing some more strength training, walking, because I love the fresh air and walking outside.
Yeah, and you and I are good partners for that.
Yeah.
We like our hiking.
And then I am a snacker.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I would be perfectly happy if all I did was snack all day and I didn't have official meals sometimes. And so I need to change that.
I need to stop at night. After
Yeah,
dinner, no
me
more
too.
snacks at night. Watching
Right.
movie, eating snacks.
Would you say that might be more along the lines of the fact that you may feel your eating style is more of a grazer?
I am more of a grazer, but sometimes I think it's laziness. Because I have the food allergies. So, like Chris, you can just make a sandwich and throw some, tomatoes and hummus on a plate and you're good to go. I can't make a sandwich. I can't eat gluten. So I have to prepare. I have to do more preparing for my meals. And sometimes I get lazy and it's just easier to, snack on cauliflower and hummus, and then I'll snack on a couple of, maybe I'll make some egg salad and then snack on that. And then maybe I might have a veggie burger and a sweet potato, and that'll be a snack. So it's not like I sit down and actually have a meal. I just kind of snack all day. But I don't want to be snacking all day.
Yeah.
But I have to say, of the things you're using to snack on, that's kind of where I want to go. That's where
Yeah, I know,
wanna be.
right? Her snacks are healthy snacks generally.
Yeah, it's like, if I snack, I probably would just lose 10 pounds just doing her.
Yeah, I know, instead of the
version
donuts.
Yeah.
But then last night I had a glass of wine and, I was going to say a bag of pretzels, but it's a gluten-free bag of pretzels, so it's a tiny bag, and then they only fill it halfway.
Yeah, they
But
don't put much
still,
in there, but still.
I felt puffy this morning from all the salt, so I have to cut out on the snacking.
By the way, I have to apologize for that as well, because I also brought some wine.
Okay, well.
I didn't say the wine was the problem. It was the
right.
pretzels.
The wine's
All
never the
pretzels.
Never the problem.
Well, we'll have a good night tonight with all of us here, and then tomorrow we'll start the new routine. Or I'm speaking for myself, but
I'm going to try. I mean, I really do want to get away from, because the thing for me is that it's these bad habits that in the past I have broken and then lapsed back into, and it's like you have the goal, you see it, you've been there, you know what to do, and you still decide not to, and it does kind of make for a lot of frustration and a lot of kind of, I don't want to use the word self-hatred, but it makes you feel not good about yourself.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it's a journey. It's not a one and done, like, okay, I've lost the weight, now I'm good.
right. It's a lifestyle change.
Long journey.
Yep.
that's true. It's never a diet; it's a lifestyle.
All right. Well, thank you
Sure.
for
Thanks
coming
for
down.
inviting
We
me.
can continue on. I mean, this was fantastic and probably can continue on, but this episode is going very long. I may end up spinning this episode off, this portion of the show off into its own episode, just so that it can be digested separately. But
Probably a good idea.
yeah, but thank you. It was very informative, and
Welcome.
I'm ready for this.
Yep.
Me
Same
too.
here.
New year, new you.
New us.
Yeah. Okay, so we will sign off here, and we'll be back again very soon on the next episode of the SmorgShow podcast. Thanks, Jerry.
Hey, thanks.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.